Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And it's our best of 2020 going in Raw Wrestling retrospective. What was the best in wrestling of this terrible, sick, COVID-infested year? Who stood out? Who was the one single superstar that really had the best year? Ooh, find out in a little bit.
Yes, but this is not to be confused with our Friendo Awards. Those are happening next week, where you get to decide who's the best wrestler of the year, best show, best match, so on and so forth. We're just going to talk about our personal favorites in this here video.
Yeah.
So you want to get started?
Oh, yeah, of course. First up, ooh, this is going to get a lot of hot heat from the Friendos. We're going to talk about who had the best promotion of the year. And we looked at exhaustively every single promotion this year. WWE's main roster, which I guess we could have broken it down to Raw and SmackDown, but whatever, it's all the same. NXT, AEW, New Japan Professional Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Impact. That's pretty much all the promotions. AAA, they always put on the best show of the year.
They do.
So first up, we're going to take a look at the best promotion.
Go ahead, Steve. What was your best promotion of 2020? Which promotion?
I'll go first because I know you want the last word. I am firmly NXT. I think that was the best promotion of the year, even in spite of the fact that Vince McMahon still doesn't quite know what he wants NXT to be. Takeovers every single time, knock it out of the park, with the exception of that one that had Killer Cross on it. NXT takeovers are still the highlight of the year, and in fact, an NXT Super Show was my favorite single show of the year.
It's a good show.
But NXT continually, maybe not every single week, but, to the best of their ability, you get the best wrestling, the singular best women's division on the entire planet. And I love me some quality women's wrestling. NXT is the place to go there. That's my privilege. They might be lacking in the tag team department, but they do have the Grizzled Young Veterans, one of my favorite tag teams. To me, it's NXT. I love the fact that they never win the ratings battle against AEW. It just means that they're even cooler. They're even more punk rock. They're heavy metal wrestling, man. The Capitol Wrestling Center, all those faces up there, and then the pods with the chain link. I wonder if they're going to keep it at the Capitol Wrestling Center even after when fans are ready to come back. I don't know. They use recycled footage of fans doing this and this, and that's okay. You can't get live tickets to their Thunderdome, to their Capitol Wrestling Center.
Did you call it Capitol Wrestling Center?
Oh, you heard that. So, yeah, I'm going to say it's NXT. I love their shows. I love their roster. I think they're great.
NXT's good. It's very good. However,
great.
I like myself some AEW. Larson is all elite. AEW, they have not been handling their women's division well at all during the course of the year. They finally got to the point where they have more than one story going on during the course of any episode of Dynamite.
And it always takes place at 6:30.
Around 6:30. Yep. That being said, that is definitely something that AEW needs to work on seriously in 2021. That being said, I feel like AEW, since its debut on television in October of last year, has been a welcome shot in the arm to the wrestling business. It desperately needed a competitor to WWE, some competition, not only to hopefully inspire WWE to do better, which I don't know if they really have, but also to give viewers, fans of pro wrestling, an alternative on cable television to the same old WWE product that they've been watching for years. And AEW has done that. The roster is great. They've taken a different approach to creative than WWE has, something that falls more in line with what I like from my professional wrestling. Wrestling quality, fantastic. And while their pay-per-view efforts haven't been as universally great as takeovers, when AEW is operating at their best, there's very few promotions in the world that can top them. For me, AEW is tops. Yeah, AEW is the best, man. Number one.
So let's do this. We did this last year, but we spread it out across like a million
videos.
Report
cards. Yes.
But so you give AEW an A, I give NXT an A. I'd give
AEW a B plus.
Oh, okay.
And I give NXT a B because I think during the summer, especially after Keith Lee left, late summer and the fall, there was some weeks of NXT that felt like slogs because they didn't really have a direction creatively where it seemed like they knew where they were going.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm still going to give them an A. I'll give AEW an A too, to be honest with you. I really like AEW. I think AEW is great. I do think they have a massive problem with their women's division.
And that's why I won't give them an A.
Yeah. But I still think they're great. I give them an A. Give NXT an A. Now, let's go to the other promotions. Start off with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Don't they get like a NC? Not complete?
Yeah, incomplete because they
didn't run this year.
Well, they ran, since summer. They still had the G1. There's a lot of really fun matches in the G1. They still had Best of Super Juniors, World Tag League, Super J Cup. They tried to get in all the events they could. They still had Dominion. I haven't been following New Japan as much as I would like in terms of actually watching the shows. I've been trying to keep up on Twitter and reading recaps and such. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see for Wrestle Kingdom. The card looks great. Mm-hmm. So you could say incomplete since the good chunk of the year they were forced to take off. But what I've seen, B minus.
You know what? They took the year off, and everybody else should have done the same thing. I give them an A because they're terrific. They're New Japan. They're awesome.
They are terrific. They are awesome.
Who's next?
Impact.
Oh, easy. A. Are you kidding me? Not only did they institute, didn't they had like a decent, do they have good COVID protocols? Is that sort of up in the air? I think it's sort of up in the air, isn't it?
It might be up in the air. I mean, as far as I know, they haven't had to shut down.
Okay. Okay, good point. So. I think Impact gets an A. You know why? Because number one, at the end of the year, they've managed this AEW collaboration, which is great. But man, the people that work there seem to like working there. It is a solid place where somebody can earn a paycheck while they're wrestling. They have developed some really, really terrific talent over there, man. You got Jordan Grace, you got Chris Bay these days, you got Frank, what's his name, Ken Shamrock. I mean, a great young talent that they've got over there, man. But they've also kept their mainstays like Sammy Callahan, guys like that, who really just seem to enjoy being. Moose is absolutely terrific. Willie Mack is there. They have got a top-notch roster.
They got a really good roster, yeah.
Oh, and it's kind of across the board. Like, it's fun. I feel like they do need to reconfigure their men's division a little bit, which is kind of interesting because that's everybody else's specialty. I mean, that's
like
where everybody has.
The top of the card, the men's division is not that deep.
It's not. But then if you look at their knockouts, they have enough quality knockouts to do a tag team tournament and to crown new tag champs in their women's division. Their knockouts division is great. Their X division is pretty great. Their tag division is really good. They've got a lot of great pieces there. I think they should elevate some of those people to more prominent positions. Confused Cowboy. Who wouldn't want to see him, Joe Daughtry, in the main event scene? I think that'd be terrific.
Before I comment on Impact, I'll go back to New Japan. One of their huge story beats over the course of the year was Evil turning on LIJ, joining Bullet Club.
Oh, wow. Look at that. The look on your face. Looks
kind of
like you didn't like it. Yeah.
It's kind of I've never been like Evil's fine. Never been the hugest fan of his. And to put both your top titles on him, even for a short spell, I don't know about that.
Well, not everybody's gonna have all that killer creative, man. That was one shit stain on New Japan's.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give reasoning why I said B minus. If that's it.
Oh, if you haven't noticed, my gimmick's gonna be everybody gets an A.
Yeah, so, I noticed that. Impact.
Continue on, yeah.
Impact, if nothing else, over the last year and a half, 2 years, they've done quite a bit to rid itself of the stigma of TNA, and for that they deserve high praise. I'm gonna give them a solid B.
Wow.
Because as mentioned, their main event scene, not that deep. Women's division, fantastic. Tag division, really good. Some of the creative is pretty fun. Some of it's a bit of a head scratcher. So I'll say a B. I've enjoyed the last 2 weeks going to the Impact Zone. And as you mentioned, they managed to orchestrate this deal with AEW. So I'll give them a solid B.
The very fact that they convinced Larson to go to the Impact Zone, that deserves an A.
Well, then they'd be my best
I'm
promotion.
Them an A.
So, anyways, finally, let's talk WWE. Well, let's do Raw and SmackDown together. WWE main roster. So,
I do. Okay. Can I? I'll just do this. I'll do mine really quick.
All right, fair.
SmackDown, especially since Roman Reigns came back, has been one of my favorite wrestling shows to watch. It's been probably the highlight of my wrestling week. It really has been. I really enjoy SmackDown. I mean, yeah, I know the same people are running Raw that are running SmackDown. That being said, obviously SmackDown has different writers. At various times, they have different roster members. SmackDown's 2 hours. Show looks great. I'm going to give them an A. I am going to give Raw, I'm sorry, I'm giving them a fucking D. But it's 3 hours long. It's as hit or miss as you can possibly get. You don't know. Every week, it's your phrase, prove me wrong with Raw. Every week when I wander into AEW, I'm actually happy to wander into that.
Yes.
Every week when I wander into NXT, you know, either it's a Thursday morning or a Wednesday night, I'm like, oh man, come on, let's do it. I know there was a spell there where it was like, okay, you know, that they just don't seem to be firing on all cylinders. I had my issues with Pat McAfee. I get that. But so there might have been some weeks where I wasn't excited. But even those weeks, like I wasn't terribly excited to go into it. But then once I was there, I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. This is fine.
See, with any other wrestling program that you could probably name right now, there wasn't the feeling of dread going into the viewing experience, which is what accompanies Raw on a regular basis because you don't know what you're going to get, but you know you're going to get a 3 hour slog. So Raw, I agree. D.
Yeah.
D.
Yeah. So if you average out main roster, it gets like whatever, a C plus or a B minus.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Raw a D, SmackDown a B plus. So what is that, a C minus, C minus, something like that?
Yeah, that sounds right for main roster. And it's just, dude, they leave main roster in general. I will just say this, and this includes SmackDown because it's just Vince McMahon. It's Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. That's what it is. They leave too much potentially great material on the table. Every segment that we watch could be as good as the Roman Reigns stuff. The talent is there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, probably the people underneath Vince and Bruce, the creative's probably there, but they have this idea of what wrestling should be. And it doesn't include basic logic 90% of the time.
Yep. It's a massive problem.
And with SmackDown, they can maneuver around that philosophy. On Raw, it's too big of a show for them to figure it out.
Yep.
And it's plainly obvious, and that's why its ratings are in the toilet.
Yep. D for Raw. Let's talk about our feud of the year. There's in my mind, there's been a handful of really memorable feuds. My feud of the year, the actual feud part of it, was kind of actually felt rushed, but the build up to the feud was so good. I mean, it was some of the best stuff that WWE was doing over the summer. I'm talking about Sasha and Bayley when they were a tag team. All the teases for the split that you knew were coming were fantastic.
Yeah.
Their chemistry, the tension between them, fantastic. I kind of wish they had just taken their time with the actual feud a bit more. I understand leading into it, there was like, oh, Hell in a Cell's here. That's on the calendar. Perfect. We'll have them have their first one-on-one match there. And if anything's an argument for getting Hell in a Cell off the calendar as a gimmick pay-per-view, is something like really this match in Hell in a Cell should take place at WrestleMania. That's how good this feud could have been if they.
Not to say that it still won't.
It won in Hell in a Cell, but this feud could entirely continue to WrestleMania. It's entirely possible. But I guess the prospect of having their match at Hell in a Cell was probably just too good to pass up on, even though I kind of feel like Hell in a Cell should be the blow off, you know?
Yeah.
Not the first bout.
Yeah.
So the actual feud felt kind of rushed. But everything that led up to their split, fantastic. Is some of my favorite stuff in all of wrestling over the course of the summer. Absolutely fantastic. So I'll go with Sasha versus Bayley.
What was striking to me so much about Sasha and Bayley was that the matches, the things that they did do in the matches, there's two things. Number one, the things they did do, especially in that Hell in a Cell match, where they referenced so much of the build, so much of their story.
So much of their past in NXT as well.
So much of their past as well was simply great. The other great thing about it was just how much they got out of everybody they worked with in advance of that. I'm specifically thinking of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Just, you had some really phenomenal, I was like 2 tag matches that were just phenomenal. Everything they touch gets elevated and is better. That's why I'm really excited to see where they take this Bayley Bianca Belair thing. Bayley is on a whole nother level right now. She is absolutely killing it in everything she does. And she's not at this point right now a major player. Like, she's not the title. She doesn't hold the title. She's not fighting for the title. She's not a champion. But everything she does screams, I'm a star. Even when she loses, I don't feel like she's going down the card at all. She is a massive, massive star. She has turned this reinvention into a heel, into something that is so thoroughly entertaining. She is absolutely a delight. This would probably be my feud of the year. However, I don't want us both to have the same answer. So I'm going to go with another feud that I really, really absolutely loved. Another joy, also on SmackDown, Roman Reigns' return and his feud with Jey Uso.
Great stuff.
I can't think of a better person for Roman Reigns to feud with and ultimately consume. I mean, he is basically Raw Gate Mutant having consumed Jey Uso's soul. Their 2 matches were just masterclasses of really dramatic storytelling in a ring. And it was absolutely beautiful work, roping in Jimmy, roping in their entire family, the whole thread of, and then obviously Paul Heyman there sort of behind the scenes, has just been absolutely great. They have established Roman Reigns, especially with his, I know it was a cheating win, but his win against Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series. He is the A champion. Drew McIntyre, as much as I like him, he is the B champion. And that to me was spelled out in their contract signing preceding Survivor Series. Roman Reigns dismantled Drew McIntyre verbally in the ring. I think, but Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, just really, really fantastic, compelling stuff. I mean, on their performances have been absolutely great. Their matches have been great. Roman versus Jey has been one of my feuds of the year, next to Sasha versus Bayley. It's those 2 far and away.
Agreed. Totally. Next, our favorite show of the year. And you added this bit here, and I don't know if I'd actually appreciate it, not named Triple Mania. Why can't I say Triple Mania?
So here's the thing. I thought that we would both have different answers to this. Besides Triple Mania, you and I both understand that every year Triple Mania is the best show of the year.
Obviously.
And it's just on them to sort of put on the show and validate that. But going into it, I can tell you that Triple Mania 29 is going to be the best show of 2021. It's going to be on them to validate it, and they probably will. So I'm just going to I just think that's too much of a given, because then it's Triple Mania and then it's everything else. And that's the debatable thing. That's the thing that you sort of debate after the fact. But if your answer is, as it says here, your secondary answer, if that's the same as what I have, then so be it. Now, I'm fine with that.
Anyways, I'll kick in here. One show that's not talked about, and that's our answer, I think, for show of the year, that's not given the credit I think it deserves. It's not really talked about a whole lot, maybe because it happened at the very beginning of the year, was Worlds Collide.
Yeah.
You had a hell of a match between DIY and Mustache Mountain. You had a fantastic main event against Undisputed Era and Imperium, and they managed to put together an awesome match even after Alexander Wolf got knocked out within the first few minutes. The card top to bottom was great. Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. So many fantastic matches. Finn versus Ilya. For whatever reason, I don't hear a whole lot of discussion about Worlds Collide. It was a fantastic show.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It really was. It was really top notch. I mean, everything you just said. One of the things that really, obviously NXT UK took an extended period of time off because of COVID. And it was sad not seeing Walter during that time. We're about to get to matches of the year. And I'll talk a little bit more about him. But yeah, seeing that, the two dominant factions and the two NXT brands come together and fight it out, I thought was absolutely magnificent. Finn versus Ilya, just a terrific, probably one of my favorite Finn matches that I've ever seen. That was really terrific. Yeah, I just thought that was a really magnificent card they put together with two brands that, the fans are really diehard for the NXT stuff. We still get people asking us to review NXT UK. I wish I had the time to do it. But yeah, it's Worlds Collide was just, and then, yeah, like you said, Mustache Mountain versus DIY. I mean, that's just, I really wish they would bring Mustache Mountain to NXT Prime. God, I really wish they would. Tyler Bate is just an absolute maniac. He's so great, and Trent Seven's great too. So yeah, Worlds Collide is my favorite show.
Other than Triple Mania.
Not named Triple Mania.
Not named Triple Mania. All right, let's talk match of the year. Caught up on some of the matches, highly acclaimed matches that I missed just last night. That being said, I feel like I've been pretty consistent since the fall about what my favorite match of the year is, and I have yet to see as a match that has topped it, as great as many of them are. And my favorite match of the year is the least traditional wrestling match, probably of the year, Firefly Funhouse match. I just watched Ilya versus Walter last night. Fantastic, hard hitting. Walter is the best heel in all of wrestling right now. The Ilya looked like he was legitimately beat up after this bout. I would really like to have seen that particular match in front of a crowd, because as great as it was in the setting it took place at, it would have been elevated tons being in front of a crowd. I'm not going to hold it against it for that reason, but I remember just sitting there watching. I was like, man, if this was in front of a crowd, this would be electric.
Like on a movie screen?
No, like in front of a live audience.
Firefly Funhouse?
No, Ilya versus Walter.
Oh shit, that's my match of the year.
I know.
What the heck? What are you talking about?
I know, but I said I watched it last night. It was another contender for match of the year. I'm just talking about it.
Sorry.
Young Bucks versus Kenny and Hangman
that was a great
at Revolution. Fantastic.
That was a great match.
Okada versus Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom, where we saw Trance Ibushi. Fantastic. Firefly Funhouse for me was taking a professional wrestling match to a whole different art form. It was basically an art movie about pro wrestling. And it was an endless delight. There was so much in there for a wrestling fan to pull from it, not just the story between Bray and Cena, all the references they made to wrestling history. Just an absolute delight as a wrestling fan to pick that all that stuff up. So much damn fun to watch that match. That is my match of the year, Firefly Funhouse.
I'll give you a hot take, unpopular opinion, counter to something that you just said. Walter versus Ilya, I think actually worked better with no fans. Man, the visceral. This is like one of the only performance center matches. I guess probably greatest match ever too. But we're two guys, and they filmed it different, so like the cameras were more just in their faces. It was just more in there with them. Watching these two guys beat the crap out of each other, it was so visceral and unsettling. I think a crowd actually would have. It's like one of the few things that I think a crowd. I think a crowd would have been great because the Brit crowds are always amazing. They're always electric. So if I was given the option, I probably would have preferred that. But it is kind of interesting. It's like reading a comic book without, sometimes they'll do artist editions, which is like no word bubbles and only in black and white without the coloring, because so much of the coloring these days is all is very Photoshoppy and it's very rendered. It's a stripped down fight. And when people talk about pro wrestling and, the old school mentality of this should look like a real fight, this looked like the most real fight in pro wrestling this year. It was brutal. It was unsettling. It was uncomfortable. I kind of like no crowds there. It makes me pay attention to the artistry of it a little bit more. But yeah, that crowd coming alive for Ilya would have been something crazy good. But yeah, no, that by far I think was my match of the year. I love Firefly Funhouse. I thought it was a great short film, and I loved Money in the Bank. I thought that was a great short film as well. It was madcap fun. everybody just looked like they were having tons of fun in that match.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, I would give it to I'd give it to Ilya versus Walter.
All right, now it's time for the real debate here. Wrestler of the year. So last year, the pick was obvious. It was Adam Cole.
Easy.
This year, not as easy because there really hasn't been one singular wrestler who has kind of dominated the world of wrestling like Adam Cole did last year. If you'd asked me earlier in the year, who do you think your wrestler of the year is going to be? Asuka was the answer. Because especially during the early phase of the Empty Arena era, she was the MVP. She was holding down episode after episode after episode of Raw.
She was always the one reason why I was like, oh, wow, for these 10 minutes she's on my TV.
I'm really excited to watch Raw because I want to see what Asuka's going to do. Even going through the summer when she was feuding with Sasha and Bayley, that was all really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, during the summer, if you'd asked me, I would have said Sasha and Bayley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they were doing amazing work all through the summer. And then after their feud, and once they went their separate ways, it's not as interesting when they were just feuding against each other,
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask me now, who's doing the best work now, it's Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since he's come back at SummerSlam, he's been doing the best work of his career and some of the best work in all of wrestling.
There's another,
but in terms of that one person who has kind of been consistent throughout the whole year, that's a much harder decision to make.
It is. I know who mine is. There is another category that kind of plays into this, and that's which wrestler had the best year. And for that, I think it's hard to argue that it's not Jon Moxley. I think he's had the best year. He's been AEW. He's been the top AEW champ, or he's been the top AEW champ of a promotion that's skyrocketing, that's doing really great things. In terms of is he the wrestler of the year, some of his feuds have been quite lackluster. Some of his matches have been quite lackluster. Some of his promos have been quite lackluster. But he's had a couple moments of inspiration here or there. But he's been on top the entire time.
Yeah, more or less,
anchoring the promotion that really needed an anchor during its formative year or its formative years. That being said, I mean, do you want to go first with who you're? Do you have a singular pick? Because I do.
This morning, I don't know if I still do. So go ahead and make your case. I know who you're picking. It's a really good pick. And I'll try to see if I could decide who it's going to be for me. So go ahead.
I don't think anybody had as completely great a year as Bayley. And I don't even really think it's close. Because like you said, Roman just came back, and he's been doing electric work. For all we know, he'll be. But Bayley, from her reign as champion, what was like a 440 day? What
300 and something days?
Oh, ending her reign 380 days.
Yeah,
it was 380 days. But like her work, so coming into the year, she was champion. So she was already doing, let's see, at Survivor Series last year.
She was the match with Shayna and
Becky. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was probably a banger. Let's see here. So was it a Super Showdown? Let's see here. Okay. At Royal Rumble, she successfully defended the title against Lacey Evans. Naomi interrupted her. Bayley retained her title against Carmella. Bayley defeated Naomi at Super Showdown. Let's see here. I'm just looking at our Wikipedia entry right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Bayley defended her title against, what happened at WrestleMania? Was it the 6-pack thing? Yeah, it was a 6-pack elimination at WrestleMania 36. Her character work has been off the charts great. She elevates everybody. So like the first giant chunk of the year, she was champion, elevating the brand. Her and Sasha were a proven ratings draw every time they were on TV. She put over Sasha Banks, but she was also sort of pivotal in making Sasha, in sort of scrubbing Sasha's legacy of not being able to defend the title. They scrubbed that. And that was thanks in part to Bayley by having that rematch. And now she's working with Bianca Belair, elevating more people. She reminds me at this point of the best of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is a world-class wrestler, comes off whether he's a bad guy or a good guy, as somebody who is just having the time of their life, you want to see them. You get excited when they're on your TV. And Bayley's been that the entire year for me. And I'll go back to these matches every time. Go back and watch Shayna and Nia versus Bayley and Sasha. And you see the best matches you've seen from Shayna and Nia. Easily. They enhance strengths and they hide weaknesses of all their opponents. I can't wait to see more of this Bayley-Bianca thing. To me, it's Bayley, and it's kind of clear.
Okay. I have a short list here. I named some of the people on it that I considered. Hangman Page. I don't know if anybody's improved their stock in AEW more than Adam Page has this year from his humble beginnings on Dynamite's birth last year, where they seemingly had basically nothing for him. He's found a really good, compelling character that is going to launch him into be a main event player. Whenever he comes back around to wrestling Kenny for that belt. And when it happens, and hopefully it's in front of fans, it's going to be a massive, massive thing.
Yeah.
Randy Orton has had a career renaissance this year. He's done some of the best work of his entire career, had some of the best matches of his entire career this year. You got to mention him as far as a contender for Wrestler of the Year. Mention Roman Reigns. Since he came back at SummerSlam, he's been incredible. Absolutely incredible. Kota Ibushi, back-to-back G1 winner. Not a whole lot of people have done that. Put on some really fun matches. You mentioned Mox. Drew McIntyre. He's been put in a kind of a really crummy position of being the top champ on Raw when the creative is crap. He is willing to carry that. He is willing to carry the show on his back. And for a lot of episodes, he has, and he's done some really, really good work. In terms of the model of consistency, I mean, Drew is essentially WWE's John Moxley. He's the guy that they said, all right, this show is yours.
Yeah.
And I would, if it's down to the two of them, I would probably give the edge to Drew because I think I appreciate his work more, just personally speaking. I just find him to be more captivating. Mention Asuka, mention Sasha and Bayley. I'm not going to disagree with anything you said about Bayley because it's all right. But I'm going to say Sasha Banks. Bayley reached another level once Sasha came back. She was doing really good work before, doing absolutely incredible work when Sasha came back. And I'm not to say that's all thanks to Sasha. That's not my point at all. Their chemistry was so good. What they were doing, what they knew they wanted to do was so good, so spot on. As you mentioned, every match that Sasha and Bayley were involved in from like the tag title perspective elevated everybody involved. And that's 100% true. Stuff that the match Sasha had with Asuka, the matches Sasha had with Asuka, phenomenal. I mean, it's you can make a case, I think, for either of them. A very strong case. I'm going to go with Sasha. She bested Bayley at Hell in a Cell, finally got over the situation where she couldn't defend the title. And in terms of what she's done in the ring, it's the best in-ring work she's done in her entire career.
It's true.
Since she's come back, she's kind of reinvented herself to a certain degree and expanded her repertoire of moves. And just some of the matches she put on this year has been absolutely off the charts. So for me, it was down to Sasha or Drew. I appreciate Drew's consistency, him taking on the challenge of carrying Raw on his back in not the best of circumstances, and just kind of being that real model of consistency. But in the end of the day, Sasha Banks has blown me away several times over the course of the year, maybe more so than anybody else. So my vote, Sasha Banks.
I think my thing about Drew and
we'll just say Sasha and Bayley wrestlers.
Yeah, Sasha and Bayley makes sense. I think the thing about Drew that I hesitate on giving him the title is the same as Mox. They don't elevate people. I don't think Drew makes anybody better when he's in there with them. I just think that, I don't know. Maybe I can't blame it on WWE Creative because I think Bayley and Sasha both do that. I think Bayley does it quite a bit more than other people, but
I would say this: Drew, by and large, his feuds since he's become champion have all been with people who are very well established. Lashley, Rollins, Randy Orton, like especially Randy. He's already operating this year at such an enormously high level. I don't know what else Drew could pull out of Randy Orton. You know what I mean?
I do think that there is an element of people are elevated when you can clearly see the sum is greater than the parts. And I never get that with Drew, and I always get that with Bayley and Sasha. Always. I never get that with Drew. With Drew, I just know that it's Drew. He didn't make Roman Reigns any better. Like that was electric because of Roman Reigns. That was him. And we all knew that Roman was going to win that match. And it made sense for him to win that match. Drew hasn't hit that yet for me. And it's not to say that he can't. It's that, to me, it's sort of the same with Moxley. The sum is never greater than the parts with him and anybody he's feuding with. With Drew, it's the same. With Sasha and Bayley, whoever is getting into it with them, they're going to look better, come out stronger than when they got into it.
There you go. Sasha and Bayley. Wrestlers of the year.
Your wrestlers of the year. There you go. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm sure you guys have plenty of hot takes. Yeah. Anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it. Till next time. We'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Help support Going In Raw today by becoming a Friendo Club TV member. You'll get access to new bonus episodes every week, including Friendo Club Arcade, Live Power Rank, Vintage 10 for the Wins, and Ask Steven Larson. Get access to Friendo Club TV today by becoming a $5 and up patron at patreon.com/Steven Larson, by throwing us a sub at twitch.tv/Steven Larson, or by clicking join at youtube.com/Steven Larson.